It's all about peace, spreading love in the world. So I gotta represent rebels for joy, positivity. You know that we're all about it. Magic happens when you align your purpose, passion, and power. Just believe in your greatness. I know for sure the light that you radiate too strong to ignore. Emotional revolution. It's time that we start. Love, we need more. We are rebels for joy. Woo!
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Rebels for Joy podcast. I am one of your hosts, Bonnie Kelly. Today, you are in for a treat. We have Andrea Cairella here, who not only has just wrote her very first book, which we're going to dive into, but she's also a speaker, a psychotherapist. She helps women who are those A-type overachiever that get burnt out and busy. And I know nothing about this. Nothing at all. And she's just going to help us kind of realign, really grounding back in ourselves. And I just can't wait to have this conversation. So with that, hey, Andrea, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me and all that you do in the world.
Oh, thank you. You and I got to meet, what was it, like 2 years ago?
Yeah, maybe even 3. I think maybe
Wow.
even 3, 2.5. Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while. So we met at a speaker competition. The two of us were both just playing, meeting with people with Michael Hyatt, with, the Adventure Reach crew. It was just so much fun to just kind of get to know each other. And then we went our separate ways. And then we've just, of course, social media just allows us to stay connected and stay centered with each other. And I've been so thrilled to watch just the things that you've been doing. You're now with writing for Forbes, which I was like, hallelujah, high five right there, girl. Like, boom, boom.
Thank you. Yeah. So
And yeah, you do some wonderful stuff, and you just launched your book. So why don't you tell our audience a little about yourself, and then wait, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
I almost forgot.
Oh,
You've got a joke.
Yeah, it's a funny story. Yes.
Awesome. So I love when our guests bring something like that. So girl, give it to me. What you got for us?
So I studied abroad, like a decade and a half ago. And I remember one of my roommates, she spilt some milk, and we were in Spain at the time. So she's like, estoy embarazada, which sounds like I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. And the host mother was like, Dios mío, because embarazada means pregnant, actually. So my roommate, my housemate was saying, estoy embarazada, thinking she was saying I'm embarrassed, but she was actually saying I'm pregnant. And it was so, I knew I knew what she was trying to say, and I also knew what the host mother was thinking, and I was like, oh, whoa, hang on a minute, this is what's going on.
All right, that is awesome. I love true tales. I love true stories. That is funny. That is so funny. That would be something I would do. Actually, my husband and his friends often joke that I have a made up language because I'm always making up words.
I love it. Creating our own words is fun.
Yes. All right. So tell us a little bit about your specialty, because I think it's going to serve so many women to understand this burnout process.
Yes. So burnout really is, it's a combination of a couple things. It's like having the gas on, and then at one moment in time, it's like you can like putter and feel like there's no more in me, right? So we can operate in 3 different ways: fight, flight, or freeze response. And my background over the past 14 years is specializing with people that experience trauma, that have had trauma, addiction, relationship issues. And whenever we are going through a grief and loss process or some sort of event that has impacted us in our life, it can kick us into high gear as a survival mechanism to kind of cope, to keep going, and even if it's purpose driven, we can feel tempted to keep our foot on the gas and never let up. And we can also go into the opposite extreme, which is shutdown, where we completely, collapse, or we go inward, or we just want to, retreat and nurture ourselves and maybe, distance ourselves, right? So we, or we just kind of freeze and we're like, I don't know what to do. And we can create these patterns, whether we're consciously aware of them or not, that lead to burnout. So that's one thing. There's generational trauma, maybe learned patterns that were modeled from our parents that we've never really evaluated if they are in true alignment with our sense of self. Or it could be societal pressures. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that you've experienced a trauma or some negative impactful event. It could just mean like you are socialized in society as a woman, and there are so many different social patterns or expectations that we as women who have really only been in the workforce for about 100 years, a little over 100 years. And so we've adopted a paradigm of success that embedded in it has like slave girl mentality in it, or self-worth issues in it, or feeling like you have to fight for a seat at the table kind of issues that I think we aren't necessarily consciously aware of, but we somatically, and our nervous system is operating with all these sociological messages that prompt us into trying to over control, or dimming our light, or speaking up, but then not speaking up too much because it might bother somebody, or somebody might judge us, or the inner critic that we have. And so all these different patterns that imprisonate us, we are operating from either from fear or control or survival, and then we're incorporating that in the way that we go towards any goal that we have. And so part of this process and part of this book is really shining a light on when some of those patterns are that keep us burnt out on busy, whether they're internal patterns like shiny object syndrome I talk about in my book is another one of them, but also the external patterns that keep us burnt out on busy. And so the book is really laying a foundation to see what those are so that you can actually start redefining what are you about? What's really the rhythm? What's your natural rhythm that allows you to thrive rather than just survive? What is your, redefining it on your terms and reclaiming our power as women, as leaders, as heart-centered, purpose-driven women that have an incredible mission. And especially at this time, a level of consciousness that we need, and sleeping beauty, i.e. all of us that have incredible potential within us. If these patterns are in place, it's going to slow us down from the real impact that we are destined to make on the planet at this time. And so freeing ourselves from those patterns so we can really uplift ourselves and redefine the rules, rewire the way that we operate, and reconnect with that power, because it's pretty unstoppable.
Yeah, amazing. So what I'm hearing a lot of right now is that it's really just this conscious call to wake up. I think a lot of us are just operating on that autopilot, that default mechanisms that were generationally handed down to us, like you said, or that we just were experienced. So it's an experiential conditioning. And like most of us are just behaving in a way that's so unconscious and automatic that isn't in alignment with our truest self, and it's causing us to burn out. That's
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. You nailed it. That's what it is.
So before we get into diving, because I want to dive in to figure out, okay, like how do we wake up to this? Because I know your book gives us all these step-by-steps. It's going to help us, really understand not only where we burn out, how we burn out, and then how we can begin to unhook and unplug from that. But my spider senses tell me that you were stuck in this patterning and somehow as well. So tell me about your wake-up call and how you found your path back to joy.
Sure. Well, the interesting thing is that this cycle, I talk about this cycle that we all go through in this process as women, right? And we have various different transition points that happen throughout our life. So it's not a one and done thing. It's one of those things that once you understand these principles, it's something you can wash and repeat over and over and over again. So for me, one time that was when I was in my 30s, and I was working as a trauma therapist. And I was working with a supervisor, a female supervisor that was emotionally abusive in her leadership style. And I remember it had some interesting nuances to it because I'd worked there for 2 years. I had had a lot of success, was doing really well. And then all of a sudden something happened where her behavioral patterns with me shifted. And later on, I found out she was doing that with other people before me and after me. And I was just kind of targeted during that time. And so I remember going through that transition. I went through this cycle of evaluating, like being in this crossroads of like reevaluation and then needing to seek tools and resources because the tools that were in my toolkit, I needed to expand them. And so I went for mentorship and support and different things and learned these things to help shore me up during that challenging time that I was navigating, right? So that was one time. Another time was when I became a mother, right? So that transition of identity and how to be able to balance the purpose that was in my heart prior to becoming a mother, and then also now this new role, this new responsibility, this new bandwidth that was required, and how do I harmonize these two areas of my life that allow me to be true to myself will also be true to the dimension of being a nurturing, present, loving mother. Yeah. And then another time was when I moved from overseas back to the United States. And I was awaiting reciprocity from my licensure in one state, awaiting it in California. And I had all these hoops to jump through. And so my financial stability, my financial security, I had to sit and wait and deal with kind of that like not being able to be in action, be in my purpose. And I had to sit and wait and use this time of reflection for my mindset, for my emotional well-being, for my spiritual development. So I looked at every time in my life where I was facing adversity, and the women that are listening to this, look at opportunities in the struggle, because we can be in our struggle and we can be in our strength at the same time. And so that's what I did. Each time that I have faced adversity or faced some sort of challenge, I looked at it and I said, okay, how can I grow here? What am I supposed to learn here? How am I supposed to evolve past this? What sort of support do I need to get to the other side of this more powerfully? And so I've always done that. And that's basically, my clients can borrow benefits from that, because each time I was on my own journey of both my struggle and my strength, finding my strength and tapping into my own strength, that's where I continue to evolve. And so I know that even 10 years from now or 5 years from now, when I face another challenge, using these principles will allow me to navigate that much more effectively.
Yeah.
As we all need to.
Yeah, I love this. I love this. You can be in struggle and you can be in strength at the same time. And I think that, at the time that we're recording this, is that we're on just entered into week 3 of the social lockdown, where everybody is, in a different state. We're in that struggle. And I think, it's very easy for us to feel like we're waiting for it to end so we can be, or we could start again. And I loved your story of how you're talking about, just not waiting, even if you're in that holding pattern, it's like still not putting your life on hold and not waiting, and being able to really dive in deep and start asking those harder questions about, like, who am I and what do I want, especially if we've got some new moms listening on the podcast, right? Or, moms to be, because I will say from my personal experience, Andrea, like that identity crisis that came as a powerful woman entrepreneur who like knows what she wants and what she wants to do, and then navigating that bandwidth, like you said, of all these new responsibilities. It threw me for a loop, girl.
Yes. It is like, it's like, oh, I can do that too. And you're like, yeah, there's no more room on this plate. We got to reevaluate what's on this buffet platter. Absolutely.
So let's dive just a little deeper into this, okay? So how did the burnout emerge for you, right? So these are the points that you could clearly say, okay, where is the big struggles? I had to tap into my strength. But how did you know that you were in that struggle? Like, what were the warning signs that were like, oop, Andrea, you're off here?
My body let me know. And that is the thing, like your body will let you know. If you notice tightness in your throat, if you notice constriction in your heart, if you notice tightness in your hips, if you notice that your breath is not expansive and it feels more constrictive, if you feel like you have headaches or like you are ruminating too much, if it's affecting your sleep, if you don't have enough joy, if you don't feel like life is juicy, if you don't feel like you have a little bit of, all is good, all is okay, I'm not in survival mode, your body will let you know if you have been hijacked by your survival monkey mind.
Yeah.
Your body will let you know. And if your body is feeling a sense of yucky or constrictive, there's something in your mindset that needs to be sorted out, something in your emotional resiliency or mastery that needs to be developed, something in your physiological energy that needs to be cleared, or something in your spiritual well-being that is not being nurtured. Those are the wake-up calls. Your body is your ally, not just your mind, your body. And when we only rely on our mind, we're cooked.
Yeah.
So women, we have an incredible wisdom in our body. And when we tap into the little signs, the subtle ones or the big ones, because if we ignore the little ones, it will manifest into autoimmune disease potentially. It'll manifest into health issues. So use those sensations in your body as your little inner wisdom guide, trying to steer you in a different direction in the what or the how you're going about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what do we do when the warning signs come up? All right. So like we find ourselves now like in that point, it's like, okay, we're on the verge of burnout. We're on the verge of, or just even recognizing we're in that state of survival. And, for someone who has experienced a lot of tremendous, struggles in my past, it is very easy in times of stress and pressure to kind of like revert back into that version of me that can, that isn't the most divine version of me.
Totally. Yes. So here's the deal. Because I can totally understand, because my book is my roadmap to keep me grounded, So one, I think it's starting off your day already with kind of your spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional well-being plugged in right away, right out the gate. Like before you even start your day, we take a shower and we clean our body. We need to be able to meditate or reflect or journal or have this really intimate time to connect with our higher self, our higher consciousness, right at the beginning. If you have 1 minute, do it for 1 minute. If you have 5, do it for 5 or 10. That's the first step to really set your day up for success, so that the waking up before the monkey mind wakes up.
Yeah.
Right? Waking up before the enemy wakes up, that inner driver, that inner critic, or that inner ambitious you, right? You want to wake up before her is one, right? And you want to be able to connect with that nurturing, loving, higher vibrational self of joy, of peace, of intentionality, of purpose, of checking in, of surrender. Because there are different levels of consciousness. There's fear-based consciousness. It's happening to me. There is the control or manifester mindset consciousness, which is it happens by me. So if it doesn't happen by me, it's not going to happen. So if we're in that level
of control.
Totally. That's where the women that read my book, live, but they want to transition to the third level of consciousness, which is it's happening through me, which is really how the book was realized for me. For me, I had a whisper when I was pumping. Interestingly enough, I was pumping. And I said, there has to be a better way. And I got this little inner nudge that said, move your body. Go move your body. Dance. You love to dance. You loved to dance when you were a kid. Dance. So I took a class called Elevated Energy. I keep mispronouncing it. Elevated Energy. And I started moving my body, and it was in 20 minutes into the class, I started getting all of these creative downloads, stories, ideas, wisdom that comes through me when I work with my clients, when I'm in flow working with my clients, but it was in my dance class. Except this time it was different. This time it said, girl, you need to write this down on paper. You need to get this down on paper so more people that you can't work with one-on-one can benefit from these tools, these stories, these resources, these wisdom pieces that are going to help elevate these women from the inside out and ultimately elevate the world. And so I said, okay, I'm willing, I'm open. And so I allowed myself to shift to this third level of consciousness. And I've operated from it as well. It's not like a one and done thing, that you're only in consciousness too. You can, in different areas, you can be in different levels of consciousness, and you can shift depending on what's going on. So the goal is to plug yourself in, move your body, have spiritual practices, connect with high vibe women, a supportive community that you can be real and authentic with, that really celebrate you and support you. These sort of elements that you can put into place for yourself set you up to light the world up rather than burning yourself out in the process.
Yeah. I think this is so imperative. It's so important, and I think one of the biggest resistant pieces that I know that I hear, and I'm sure that you hear as well, is I'm too busy to meditate, or I don't have time for that. And they get lost in that kind of that constant mantra, and then don't get the results that they want. And then are like, well, see, it doesn't work. But in reality, it's like you didn't do the work. So what do you say to them to get them over that mental hurdle that says, that I'm too busy, I'm a new mom, or I've got 3 kids, or I've got this, or I've got that. And I'm sure you've heard 1,001 excuses.
Sure. And I've used them myself, to be honest. Guilty as charged. I think for me, what I've come to the conclusion of, that busyness is really an intimacy issue.
Whoa, let's slow down on that one for a minute. Let's dissect that. Get me in there.
Yes. Busyness is an intimacy issue. When we say I'm too busy, what we're really saying is I'm unwilling to be intimate with myself, with you, or with that.
Wow.
That's it.
I feel like we need to drop the mic on that.
I know. It's the truth.
I used to have this. So the beautiful thing is, like, you and I can speak this language before, right? Like having that super busy, burnout driven, like when my worth was so tied up in what I did, I was getting this sense of ego boost from how busy I was. And in fact, all the people I associated with, the successful women that I was associated with, all were like, well, how are you? Like, I'm busy. And it was like this, almost like this status.
Honor.
It was like this status, it was just like, the busier you are, like the cool, like the better you are, so like you start like jumping into that, and then you're working 60, 70 hour weeks. It's like, yeah, your bank account's full, but at the same time, like you're just like so drained and disconnected. And then you wake up one day and you're like, what is it all for?
Exactly.
What am I trying to prove?
So
and
here's
it really
the deal.
Was an intimacy issue with myself.
We have to slow down to be able to move faster, which is so counterintuitive. It's so counterintuitive to the busy women out there. It seems like, what? It's the opposite messaging of the survival monkey mind that has been running the show for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years plus, right? But we can't afford anymore. I mean, think about it. Think about what's going on in the world right now. Crisis means danger and opportunity at the same time. In the Chinese symbol, it's a combination of crisis and opportunity.
Wow.
So if we're operating from a fear-based consciousness of survival and panic, one, we're not going to be plugged in. And guess what? Nothing really good comes out of that. I mean, sure. I mean, we can push a stone up a hill. We can squeeze, blood out of a stone, right? But at what cost, right? And so, you and I work on serving women, on uplifting women, on being able to uplift girls around the world. right? To help them be able to step into their power and to do it with joy, to be able to be, a rebel, right? A rebel is really fighting, in my book, is fighting the survival mind monkey of, I'm going to rebel against that because I'm ready to step into my fullest authentic version of myself, not what she does and not what she does, but what is my beautiful snowflake? What's my imprint? Which might be different from somebody else's. But if we don't tune into it and we don't plug into it, it's actually going to slow down our process from letting that to evolve or unfold like a flower, right? But if we're so focused on, I need to be the purple flower, like that purple flower, and I need to be when you are a rose. And so being able to slow down and get intimate with ourselves, intimate with our practice, even if it's for a minute. If you don't have a minute, then I don't know. Right? Like, start with a minute, start with a minute and allow yourself to tolerate being intimate with yourself and your body for a minute. Then tolerate being intimate with yourself for 2 minutes. And maybe look at it as like, how can I become a better friend to myself, to my higher self? How could I be a better friend to my higher power or source or God or universe or whatever you believe in that is bigger than yourself? It will be the insulation to ego, to our ego getting so caught up in our over-identification with whatever we're putting out into the world, and we make it about us. It's not about us, because if we stay in that like third level of consciousness, it's happening through us. We're all we're all pieces. We're all one, reflecting itself in a variety of different ways. And when we deny ourselves to reflect back into the world the imprint of who we are, because we're so focused on scrolling or seeing what this person's doing and up to, and we try to like mimic them, then we disrespect the beauty of the gift that already resides within us. So that intimacy piece of actually like not using busyness as a badge of honor or as an ego boost or as an excuse to not be intimate, we got to give that up, because if we don't, we're all going to stay asleep.
Yeah.
All of us.
And we miss out on really truly getting to know the brilliant, beautiful, gorgeous flower that is you. Because even in nature, every flower that blooms is slightly different than the others. Right. And they're not judging each other about like, ooh, that one has 7 petals and I only have 6, Like,
totally. It's ridiculous, right?
It is. And
crazy.
And we miss out on becoming our own internal best friend. We miss out on really living a life that is on purpose, living a life that is in alignment, living a life that is full. And I think this is brilliant. So there's 2 things I had to add to what you said. Okay. So when we were saying, if you don't have a minute, there's a quote in Buddhism that says, if you don't have 5 minutes to meditate, you need to take an hour.
Oh, I love that. That's funny.
And
Those are so hilarious.
Yes, they are. But I use that as like every time I'm like, oh, I'm too busy for that. And I'm like, okay. Because the other thing Dr. Wayne Dyer used to say is if it takes 10 minutes or less, just do it now. Because the cost, the energetic cost of kicking the can is 3 times as much as it would be to just take action in that 10 minutes or less. And it's just like a mantra that I've really had to adapt in my own heart when it comes to things of self-care, right? Of taking the time to meditate and, grounding myself, getting outside, moving my body, whatever element that is necessary at the time. But the other thing I want to add to here, Andrea, is that you said we have to slow down so we can speed up. And what I think is so powerful of this is that when we're in tune with that natural flow, like when we're really guided by our intuition, we're vibrating energetically at a significantly higher vibrational frequency, which is light speed ahead of what we would be energetically when we aren't living on purpose. And so I just wanted to highlight that because I think it's just such a good nugget that you dropped right there.
Oh, thank you. Yes. It's so true. It's so true. I think that it's a lot easier to use the power and momentum of a wheel through discipline, through practice, that ends up making it go faster than hitting a hockey puck and then it stops. And then hitting the hockey puck and then it stops. Using the momentum of habits and discipline as where you're not making an emotional decision. Do I do it? Do I not do it? Do I do it? Do I not do it? Where you just start creating these habits that you've already made the decision, rather than constantly being on the fence. Am I going to do it? Am I not going to do it? You take away all that wasted energy and you channel it into, I've already decided, and now it's just about me showing up and following through. What that does is that builds up confidence, and that builds up a sense of inner trust, because you're accountable and you follow through. And so what that does is you start becoming a person that means what she says and says what she means. And then you start having those habits become who you are, because the habits become your traits, or your states and traits of who you are. And those become your personality. And then that becomes how your life evolves and what it looks like. And so being really conscious and intentional to, like, what do I want all the 8 dimensions of my life? And that's something that I talk about with women, is like, how can we lead in the 8 dimensions of our life so that we're thriving rather than surviving, and being able to see, like, assess, like, where are you currently? And then what would it look like if you were at a 10, and how do we close the gap? Because wherever that gap is, that's where your potential is not able to be fully realized.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. And imagine what we could do if all of us women, were living in our largest, greatest, fullest potential.
Yes.
Just think about what the impact of that, Andrea, on the world.
I am, yes, it's why I do what I do.
Me too, girl. Like,
I see it one-on-one with women.
Yeah.
And so to be able to have the vehicle of this book and even this conversation so that it can reach more people and it can wake women up to what's possible, and then have the tools that can close the gap.
Yeah.
I can't wait what's going to happen.
It's amazing.
I'm excited. That's
amazing.
Exciting.
Yeah. So let's end off with this. So, I mean, we've got a couple things to end off with, but I think you've already answered this, but let's get a clear, defined answer here. What do you think a rebel for joy is? Because you gave us nuggets around it, but let's really get a clarity around what that is for you.
I think joy is a conversation, is something that you discover within yourself. It's always been there. It's been there since we were little girls. It's been there. It's always been there. Our joy is like a connection with our soul. And so joy is when we allow ourselves to prioritize enjoyment and being over just the doing. We tap into something really magical, that's fun, that's playful, that's collaborative rather than competitive. It allows us to, like with my daughter, like during that time, like I was dancing with my daughter to Latin music in my kitchen, because it's what uplifts our soul. And so joy, being a rebel, is saying, you know what are my rules? What are my terms? Whatever is the opposite of joy, that's the opposite of what my soul is trying to wake me up to, I'm no longer available for it. And so having really good boundaries and saying, I'm going to be a rebel because I'm only available for joy that flows through me and out from me.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. I'm like over here, I'm like wanting to just scream on top of the mountains and be like, yes, that's our jam, man. That's it. Because, we do want to rebel against that mediocrity, the temptation of saying that I'm fine, it's okay, and settling for just like mundane living. No, girls, wake up. Andrea's waking people up. I'm waking people up. We are here to say that joy is a conscious choice that we can really vibrate in on a regular basis if you do the work. And sometimes that means hiring someone like Andrea to help you through. So Andrea, where do you like to hang out? Like, I know I connect with you all the time on Facebook, but where can people find you? We've got your website that'll be linked below. And I also, have got an amazing little freebie you want to offer out to people. So tell us about all that.
Yes. So my website is andreacarella.com. And as far as the free gift goes, it basically is an assessment workbook that gives you a little bit of wisdom, and then also allows you to evaluate on your own the different dimensions of your life, the 8 dimensions of your life, so you can really see where you're at and where you're out of harmony and where you'd like to enter back into harmony.
Awesome.
And then if you'd like to do a deeper dive, we can set up a call where I can help give you kind of a mini plan to be able to help you move the needle forward in the right direction.
Closing the gap. Yeah, closing the gap. Wonderful. Awesome. Okay, and then favorite social platform that you hang out, is it Facebook, Instagram? What's your favorite jam?
Facebook and Instagram. Usually if I do something on Facebook, I also do it on Instagram simultaneously, just to be able to, simplify things.
Yeah. So you guys, wherever you hang out, she's here to be able to hang out with you. If you guys have more questions, if you check out her website as well, she's got great resources in relationship dynamics as well. Being able to expand conversations with your partner. I got to explore everything Andrea over the last couple of days. So it's been wonderful to really just dive into her YouTube channel, into her Facebook feed, into her website as well. She's got retreats. She's got all kinds of ways to serve you. And her new book that just came out is available Amazon. Is that where we're at?
Amazon.
Okay.
And it will be on Audible too for those busy women that want to be able to listen to it while they're doing other stuff.
Wonderful. That's on my lockdown list to do, is actually put my book on Audible.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Wonderful. Okay. And so you guys, the book title is No Longer Burnt Out on Busy. It is available now. So grab a copy of that. And Andrea, we're going to end this loud and proud. So tell the world, who are you?
My name is Andrea Cairella, and I am a rebel for joy.
That is it. Thank you so much for joining me. And thank you guys for listening in to another episode. We will be back next week with another powerful episode to serve you. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and we'll look forward to seeing you then.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye.